What's up? It's Dan again. So it's been a couple weeks here since the last video, but there's a very good reason why. We have Team Ford, Brad and Kenzie's Bronco 2 here in the barn, and we've been working on that heavy the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to cover too much of his build because they have their own channel, and you can check their channel out at Riding Shotgun Adventures on YouTube. But I'll give you a little overview of what we've been doing since I've been helping Brad kind of design and come up with all this stuff. A lot of it's very similar to what I was just doing with the Explorer here, SARGE 2.0. So his project's been going very quick since there's 2 to 3 of us working on it. And I've already been down a lot of these roads before on the Explorer. So I'll cover his stuff in a second. As far as the Explorer goes, I have been doing stuff behind the scenes. Not a lot that you can visually see, but all 4 of the window regulators and or motors, I wasn't going to diagnose which one it was, so I put all 4-door brand new regulators and motors in all 4 doors. So that was kind of a pain. There's like 5 rivets in the front doors you got to knock out, 7 in the back, I believe, and then you reattach everything with quarter 20 hardware. Somebody already did something to the driver door at one point. But like I said, all brand new motors and regulators in all 4 doors. Wasn't a fun job. I did my mother-in-law's 2006 Honda Civic's passenger front window regulator motor. That literally was a 15-minute job. These, whole other story. So I got the dash. I haven't screwed it in yet. It's just kind of snapped in place. Let's see if I can turn the flash on. Can't. So the dash is in place. The gauges. I got my, I think it's pronounced a Toto, A-T-O-T-O. It's an 8-inch touchscreen. Basically, it's an Android, almost basically a cell phone operated radio. It's awesome. There's multiple settings to slide it in and out, up and down, and tilt forward or back. This is how I like it. I kind of wish they would have the bracketry black, or I wish I would have painted it ahead of time. But for some reason, it was the same in my 90 Bronco 2. Even though they say the factory radio is a single DIN radio, the actual opening where the aftermarket radio metal trays go in is larger than 1 DIN, single DIN. So that was a pain. I had to kind of come up with some creative techniques to mount that. Let's see, what else? You've already seen the gauges, all that stuff's in here. All the wires are ran. So the radio, like I said, has a backup camera and a front camera. It's got its own Wi-Fi and GPS antenna. So all that stuff's routed. Because once I put this radio in, I didn't want to have to take it in and out. So all of the wires are all ran up behind the dash to the radio plugged in. And I have plugged in the cameras and all that stuff and tested everything before I finally snapped it in. So that's all set. I also just got, well, I worked on my shifter console a few days ago. I covered that early on. It's made by Goat built. It's like I think it came in 4 pieces. You weld it together. Specially designed for the winter's shifter. The Bronco 2 also had this rear heat duct, but I actually eliminated that in the Bronco 2 that I had. But since this is a larger truck and I'm going to have the kids and wife with me a lot more, I want to keep the back heat. So that's where these, I think it's 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch square tube standoffs I made. Welded them to the bottom of the shifter bracket or console. Marked my holes. These are 5/16 bolts, and then I put 5/16 rib nuts in the floor to bolt it in easy. So that's in there. Once I lay down the vinyl flooring and all that stuff, I'm going to close this stuff off. I had the shifter cable in here, but I took it out already. It's a little bit too short. They give you a 5-foot 60-inch cable with the kit. I'm like 4 inches too short. So here's my access hole. I did an 1 3/8 hole. That way I can do a nice rubber grommet, bring the cable up in here, and it goes back into the shifter. I'm going to add on and kind of make a dovetail on the rear of this console. That way it will hide this heater duct and that cable. So that's to come. I don't have my mind made up 100% yet, but I'm going to probably eliminate the ashtray and do something like this for my transmission stuff. So the transmission has a temp turn on fan cooler in the back, but I'm going to also have a override. So in case the relay fails or anything else, I can flip this switch up, turn the fan on whenever I need to, because I'll be able to watch my temp on my trans temp gauge. And then I'm running, like I said before in the other videos, a 4R70W out of a 98 Explorer 5.0, which has been fully built. I think I covered that too. It's running a reverse manual valve body, and it still will have electronic overdrive and torque converter lockup. So when I'm actually cruising in this truck, I'm going to have this switch dedicated to turn on the overdrive when I'm on the highway above 55 or whatever. And then this switch will be torque converter lockup. So that's going to be the transmission controls on the separate switch. I didn't want to take up any more of my VO switch stuff. Right now I already have the air compressor turn on, front locker, rear locker, and then radiator fan override. And then I'm going to have rock lights, my A-pillar pod lights, another set of lights on the bumper, and then I'll have one left to do something with. Not sure yet. I'm also going to probably add, I want to box this front end since it's hollow. I should have enough room down here where I'm going to put a 12-volt cigarette plug, USBs down here, kind of hidden. Stuff like that you don't have running all the time, so I'd rather not see it. And then you can see I do have one of my seats in here, the driver's seat's in here. I bolted that in, obviously, to kind of place the shifter where I wanted it. So that's in here right now. That's going to come out here soon so it doesn't get all dirty. And then I also hooked up a rear chase light bar type deal. Now Brian Racy already installed one of these earlier in the year, but me and him were talking about it a while ago, and he already obviously has his in. So I got this situated. I got it as far back as I could to not really interfere with the headliner, and it's about 1 inch off the inside of the roof, because once the hatch is closed and this glass, you know, there's about this much trim showing. So this way it will shine right out the glass where it needs to. While the truck's on, like daily driving it, it's going to have running lights on the end lights are the running lights, parking lights, turn signals, and brake lights. So this way I'm kind of adding a little bit extra safety so people can see that I'm stopping and turning. And then the middle 3 lights are white backup lights. Everything's wired into the system here. I think I mentioned before, Brad Cumler is doing all my wiring, and that's his Bronco 2 over there. Pretty sure I made that clear. But he is like the wiring guru, also with Brian. So it was kind of cool. You can't see right now, but there's a trailer harness T that I actually used to wire in the harness for the lights. So the only wire that wasn't available in the trailer harness was the backup light, but the backup lights are right down here in the Explorer. And Brad had already wired up my neutral safety switch. I know I've said it 100 times, but I'm trying to make this truck as stock and OEM as possible as far as like the safety features and stuff like that. So I have a OEM neutral safety switch on this transmission, and then Brad has wired it to basically work like it would in a stock Explorer. So the truck will only start in park or neutral. I never got around to doing that with the Bronco, and I did have one situation where I was doing something with it. It was in first gear, and I started the truck, and it took off on me. Luckily, I was able to, jump in and turn it off, but that was pretty scary because it was heading for my neighbor's house. So that's all set. And then the backup lights, whenever it's in reverse, backup lights come on like factory. So I'm going to have my standard taillight backup lights and the light bar backup lights. So I will definitely be able to see what's going on. And that's going to aid with that radio because I'm going to have a backup camera and a forward camera. So nighttime, I should be able to see crystal clear what's behind me. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm very excited for it. And then last but not least, I finally got my front drive shaft from High Angle Driveline out in California. Now, if you look him up, his name's Jesse. I guess it's a real small shop. It's like him and his wife and one other guy, I think. But I find nothing but amazing reviews on him. All of his stuff is top notch. He does custom stuff that you never heard of. But as far as communication with him was very hard and challenging. When I first talked to him, he told me it was about a 3-week. He was about 3 weeks out to make a shaft that I needed. Well, here we are 10 weeks later, and I got my shaft yesterday. Everything's awesome. It bolts in. It's exactly what I wanted. I just wish he would be a lot better on communication. And there's no paper trail with anything. There's no, I don't know. Not a big deal. Whatever. I finally got it. Let's see. So I think I mentioned before, had I known the situation that I would be in, I would have probably went with a 4-speed Atlas, and that would have brought this front output shaft back, I think, about 8 inches. If I was 8 inches farther back, I would have been able to run what I initially had ordered from Tom Woods, a 1350 double cardan top and a 1350 in the bottom. But I quickly found out that wasn't going to work with 14 inches of droop. So it's either like, if someone was going to do a similar build to this in the future, I would recommend no longer than 14 or 12 inches in the front with this scenario. Because a Super Duty Dana 60, it brings that pinion a lot closer than the Dana 44 I had. Brad's truck over there we measured, he's got the same setup I had in the Bronco, you know, the 5.0 with a C4 Bronco, early gen Bronco transmission in a setup. And this 4R70W is like 2.5 inches longer, but the pig on a Dana 60 is 2 or more inches longer than a Dana 40 or 44. If I would have known all that back in the day, I mean, this drive shaft is not cheap. I would have rather have spent the money on a 4-speed Atlas, like I said, bringing that back 8 inches, and then I would have been able to run a standard style drive shaft from Tom Woods or whoever. But I will say Tom Woods is amazing. They have awesome customer service. If you have any issues with the drive shafts they make for you, I mean, you have a 30-day, basically no questions asked, return policy. So even though the front shaft didn't work for me, send it back to them. I mean, you know, you pay shipping back to them, but they give you a full refund on the shaft. So that's the only thing about custom projects is if you're doing something outside of the box, you don't really 100% know what you're going to get into. But every time you do something like this, you learn. So now that I got the drive shaft and I just got everything tested out, I was able to finally lift the front of the truck up by the front bumper, and I had all 14 inches of droop and no bind on my front shaft. So I'm super happy about that. This thing's going to be, I mean, with 14 inches in the front, 16s in the back, the flex is going to be unreal. And now that I know I have no binding anywhere in my system, I'm going to be able to utilize 100% of everything. So super happy. So, all right, well, that's my update for now. Like I said, just got some interior stuff, the radio, the rear light bar, the windows, drive shaft, all that stuff's been what's been going on. This is what we've been doing, though, the last 2 weeks. Like I said, I'm not going to cover a whole bunch of it. But we did a 4-link in the rear, just like my truck. It's running the 8.8 in the back. That was originally from my Bronco 2. He did have to switch out to an Artec truss, so the Artec truss offers a lot more rigidity and a lot more space for the top links to mount. And then he moved his axle back 5 inches. It probably looks weird on camera because he hasn't trimmed anything yet. But 5 inches back from stock, eliminated his stock fuel tank. So we made him mount for his fuel cell. I think he said that was 13 or 15 gallons. He had a 2-inch body lift on it. We took that out and put the same 1-inch aluminum pucks like I'm running on the Explorer. He's also doing all of his plating and stuff like I did on my truck. That's his 347. And then he's still running the James Duff radius arm setup, which is sweet. We got the high steer arm mocked up, tie rods mocked up, getting the track bar mocked up, and then same as on the Explorer, I cut some tube at my simulated ride height, and then we're going to get his towers set up next. So once the front end's all set at ride height on the coilovers, then we'll go to the back and do that. But yeah, check out his page, or his YouTube channel, I mean. All right, that's it for today. Just a little update, what's going on. And once I get my I had to order a shifter cable. They give you a 60-inch one stock with the shifter. So I have a 72-inch one coming. So once that's hooked up, the I'll be able to shift the truck and move it and test it, I guess. And then I need to get the exhaust done ASAP because I need to have the oxygen sensors and the wideband air fuel gauge sensor hooked up. And then we'll go from there. All right, that's it. Likes, subscribe, comment. See ya.